How you guys doing? Wow. What a day, huh? How's your day been so far? Right, good. So you may notice my funny accent. I'm obviously from New Zealand, you can tell. And I felt like today, you saw me probably sitting in over the last few speakers, and if you're like me, you probably felt there's a lot of good things happening so far. Good learnings, is that true? Good. And you're starting to hear some interesting thoughts. You're even probably listening to, Jamie, Peter talk about all the different ways that we can evolve and change our business possibilities, change money, change our purpose, things like that. And I'll bet you're starting to see some strong vision for the future. Is that true? Is that true?
Yes.
Good. So I'm curious. This stage seems so formal. Can I sit down? Is that okay? So I'm curious. Oh, they probably don't want that. How many people here are already out there and you're either speaking, you're presenting, you're talking in front of 2 or more people? How many people are doing that right now? Currently, you're out there, you're doing the thing. A couple people? Awesome. And how many people would love to do that either as a profession or as a hobby? How many people would love to do that? And how many people aren't going to raise your hand no matter what I say? Those are okay, good. I just got you, huh? And for the rest of you, why are you here? Would you just like to simply refine your communication skills? Is that what you're looking for? Or would you like to still be able to get up in front of people and share something? See, what today's been all about is how to communicate with others and how to project yourself outside yourself. Is that true? Good. So I'm going to be really, really upfront with you. What I want to do is I only have 90 minutes. 90, right? Or 21st century time, I have 99 minutes, I think, maybe 102, something like that. So I have a very, very short time, and I want to give you as much value as humanly possible in the next hour and a half. And then at the end of an hour and a half, I'm going to give you a special on my presentation skills course. Is that fair? Is that fair? Cool. I want to be upfront. I want you to know exactly what's going to happen. So in that hour and a half, I don't need to go over what Jamie's already talked about and what Peter's already talked about. I'll be challenging you. I need you to play full out with me and really get in. We're going to have some fun. We're going to do some hands-on stuff because I believe that when it comes to presentation skills, I can't just share it at you. I can't just talk at you and tell you how to be a great speaker. I need you to actually engage your physiology. Your what? What's the word? Your physiology, right? Engage your nervous system because that's the thing that will create the knowledge. That'll create the learnings. What we're dealing with as a speaker is habits. What's the word? Habits. Thank you. So we're dealing with habits. A habit for a public speaker is the thing that will make you great. See, what's interesting is I studied for years in a field called NLP or Neuro-Linguistic Programming. Who's familiar with that? Oh, cool. Vast majority of you, over half. So NLP is a study of what works. It's a study of modeling and finding patterns in things. And one of the fields that we've studied in NLP is the field of public speaking, of presentations, of communication. And when we studied the field of communication, what we found is there's certain patterns that fall into place that all the great speakers of our time use. If you study tapes of Jamie McIntyre, of Tony Robbins, of Zig Ziglar, of Tom Hopkins, of any of these speakers that you've heard of for years, there's certain patterns that are the same for every one of these guys. And what we found out when you actually boil it down to like a recipe, what we found is there's actually 36 behaviors of the best speakers in the world. What's the number? 30, I can't hear you. What's the number? 36 of the best behaviors of all the best speakers in the world. So what we want to do is actually layer in these behaviors at an unconscious level. So today, we'll do a little bit of that, as much as I possibly can. And I'm going to talk about a lot more of them so we can at least get it on the conscious level. So get an idea, how many people are looking for in the next month to say 90 days, you plan on getting out there and you're going to be giving a talk, a speech, a training, giving a class, proposing for marriage, something like that. Who's doing something like that in the next 90 days? Good, about half the people. For the other half, we're going to get you to the point where you want to do that, and you'll actually have something scheduled, okay? So everyone here by the next 90 days should have some opportunity to talk in front of 2 or 20,000 people. Would that be cool? Mm-hmm. Good. And again, if you're fearful of it, we know the number one fear is public speaking, besides death. So if you're fearful of it, we have really simple techniques to completely eradicate fear from the platform. So when I'm up here, what I feel instead of fear is I feel excitement. I feel rejuvenated and ready to share with somebody. And we're going to share a lot of those types of techniques. So what do we want to focus on? Well, you guys all know by now that you have an unconscious mind and you have a conscious mind. Is that true? Right? So your conscious mind, what does your conscious mind do? It's a part that says, did he just ask me if I have an unconscious mind? Interesting. That's your conscious mind. Your unconscious mind, that's the part that I'm concerned with. That's the part I care about, because your unconscious mind is the part that breathes you while you sleep. Your unconscious mind is the part of you that beats your heart every second of every day. Your unconscious mind is a part of you that is the domain of your memories, your emotions, your learnings. See, I know this. All change, all behavior, and all learnings are unconscious. What's the word, please? I can't hear you. Is it that late already? What's the word, please? Unconscious. So if I, for instance, drew this on the little flip chart thing for you, what is this? What's this part right here? What's that called?
90 degrees.
90 degrees. Now, where did that word come from? Were you walking around for the last however many decades in school saying 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees? Were you doing that, sir? No. So what happened is the moment you learned that, it went into the unconscious realm and it stayed there until you needed to bring it out again. Does that make sense? Pretty simple, right? Yet we forget that and we think and we get overwhelmed because there's so many things we have to focus on at one given time. So what I want to share with you in the next hour and a half is how you can take the 36 behaviors, the learnings that you need as a presenter, and take it to the unconscious level. So when you're up on a platform, it doesn't matter. You don't have to think about all that stuff. Do you think I could really focus on all of my content and all the behaviors all at once and decide exactly what I need to do and how to do it? Excuse me, there's no way. There's absolutely no way I could possibly get up on a platform and share those things. So we're going to deal with conscious and unconscious mind integration. Is that cool? How many people have worked with your unconscious mind at some level before? How many of you have worked with your unconscious mind at some level? Cool. If you haven't, welcome and get ready. Don't worry, I'm not going to hypnotize you yet. By the way, that just concludes our talk on hypnosis and how you can cause amnesia. Any questions? Just kidding, just kidding. That is one of our courses, actually. I do a weekend hypnosis course. And what's fun about the presentation skills and using the skills of like NLP and hypnosis and energetic healings and things like that, and using those skills to develop trainings, it means I have a virtual whiteboard. I can create anything I want to create easily and effortlessly. So get an idea here. How many people have a topic or a coursework or something that they actually already know what they want to share and they want to teach that? How many have something already? All the employees in the back, good. Speakers, a few people, good. How many have no idea what they want to share, but they want to share something? How many have no idea what they want to share, but they want to share something? Okay, cool, that's the rest of you. And then for you non-hand raisers, shame. So what's great is if you already have something, of course, I can help you develop it. And if you have nothing, by the end of presentation, we actually give you topics and learnings that you can share and teach to others. That's how I got my start in the same place. So working with the unconscious mind. Think about this for a second. Unconscious mind, right? First time I remember really thinking about the unconscious mind, I was with one of my mentors, as Jamie may have shared before, with Tony Robbins. And I've traveled all around with Tony and done a lot of the same trips Jamie did. So we hung out in Tahiti and Bora Bora and went over to Fiji and South Africa and things like that. And I remember one time in particular, it was a few years back, I was all the way up in Vancouver, Canada. I was up in Vancouver, Canada with Tony. It was a small room, about probably this size. And there was a speaker that came on who Tony works with. It was a trainer, Chloe Madonis, and she's a family therapist. And here's an interesting thing. When Tony left the stage, in a small room like this, he went and sat in the back, all the way back here, just about where Nigel's sitting. And Chloe came on stage. Tony sat there, and he sat right behind me. I was sitting right about where you are, sir, in the blue shirt. And I looked back, and as I looked at Tony, he kind of cocked his head to the side. And he got this wide-eyed look, like a 5-year-old kid, right? And he got that look, and he grabbed his pen and his diary, and he poised, ready to take notes, ready to write down as if every word she said was of utmost importance. And he started writing, and he wrote, and he wrote, and he just had that look in his eyes. And I was really curious about that. So I asked him later, I was walking around, and he puts his huge hands on my shoulder, and and he says, well, the reason why I did that is, it's interesting you noticed that, Matt. And he said, the reason I do that is because it takes me to a certain state. Can you guys remember a state that you were totally curious? Like, I don't know, maybe you're 5 years old and everything is curious to you, right? It's like your brain is the neurology of your brain is a sponge. You're just soaking everything up. And what Tony realizes when you put yourself in that state, in that moment, like you're 5 years old right now, you'll soak up everything you need to soak up, and you'll get in that curious state. And it made me think, I mean, how many of you have ever been curious before? I don't know about you, but I remember for me it was back in Christmas or whatever time it was for you to get presents, your birthday or Hanukkah, I don't know. And for me it was Christmas. And I remember being about 5, 6 years old, and I don't know if you relate to this, but I remember my parents kept the presents in the same spot every year. You guys get that lucky? It was always in the closet, in their bedroom, up at the top, on the left side. My brothers were on the right side, right, getting Legos or whatever it was. And my mom did the Christmas shopping every time. She did a little bit of shopping, then she did her last-minute shopping on Christmas Eve. So I remember thinking back to that moment, getting so curious. And as soon as she left, I'd sneak in, all like a Mission Impossible thing, right? And I looked up and checked, and she was gone, checked the blinds, and I drag a big stool or big chair out by the closet, and I reach up, and I get up here, and I reach up and grab that present. And when you get a gift, what do? You shake it, right? Because you want to know if it's toys or if it's clothes. If it's socks from grandma, right? And what's interesting is when it shakes good, you know it's good, don't you? You know it's Legos, it's Barbie dolls, it's that thing that you always wanted. And if you got really daring, who did this with me? Start to peel the tape back, ever so carefully, because you don't want to, rip the paper or anything. Because sometimes that wrapping's so thin, and why do you do that? I just remember wanting to see inside so badly. I would do whatever it took just to look inside. And sometimes the wrapping's thin, but it's never so thin you can see it through it, can you? So you peel the tape back and you try to peer inside. And some of you, the science geeky kids, they would get the steamer or the iron or something and try to iron the tape off. I wasn't that smart, so I just kind of rip it and little wrapping paper would come with it. So I try to tape it back in place, just the right place, right? So the paper lines up. Do you guys remember doing that? I did that. I was a bad kid. And then you go back, and if I can give you one gift today, I want you to take the gift of intense curiosity. So curious about your students, about your clients, about your friends, your colleagues, everyone that you're communicating with right now. Get that level of curiosity like you're 5 years old. And imagine what's possible with that level of curiosity. And I remember Nigel said, I climb mountains quite often. I love rock climbing. I'll do, vertical 1,000-foot cliffs or just mountains sometimes. And it sounds intense. It's really not that bad. When you actually get out there, it's just a matter of going for a bit of a hike in the bush. It's quite nice. And I remember one time I wanted to climb Mount Whitney, which, if you're familiar, it's the highest peak in the lower 48 states in the U.S. And it's a good-sized mountain. And it takes quite a while to do. And I realized I'd never been up there before. Never been up there before in my life. And I knew if I wanted to make it up there, I probably needed a couple of things. Well, I needed to find someone that's already been there, right? I wanted to find a map, find someone that I could totally trust. So I met a friend of mine that I've known for quite a while. His name's also Matt. And it was the two Matts we always climb and snowboard together and whatnot. And Matt had been up the mountain before. He had a map to the mountain. That's key. He actually had the map from where the parking lot all the way to the peak and exactly how to get up the trail. And he had something that's really important, which was a compass. What's that word? Compass. A compass. What does a compass do? It tells you the direction you're going. So as we started up this trail, I remember thinking to myself, all I wanted to do was get to the top. You guys ever relate to that? I just want to get to the top, right? This was my goal, to climb this mountain. I'd had this goal for years, and I'm finally doing it. So we rushed our way, and I made it up, and by the time we got just before the top, thank God I had someone that I trusted, someone that knew their way. Because of that, we avoided a lot of potential death. There's places on the mountain where if you don't know where you're going, you can literally fall off a cliff. So we had to stay in the right place and go on the correct journey. And by the time I got to the top, I never forget this. I remember hiking up, and when you get that high, you go above the tree line, there's a lot of rocks. There's not as many trees because there are none. And I remember getting to the top, and I went, yes, I'm here, all the way up. And I looked down, and right at my feet, I picked it up. You know what it was? It was a rock. You know what was up at the top of that mountain? It was a big pile of rocks. That's actually it. Nothing more. And I was like, wait a second. there were rocks down there. Like there was rocks by the car. And we hiked for, a day and a half to get to the point where we saw rocks that were higher up. And then we started on the way down, because what I learned as a mountaineer is when you hit your peak, that's halfway to your journey. Most people think hitting the peak is the goal. No. Back safe in the car on the way home, getting some food and a beer is the goal. That's the goal. When you hit the peak, you're only halfway there. So we started down the mountain. And once I realized that, it clicked in me, and I thought, I wonder if all the cliches are true. Curious. I wonder if it's really about the journey. You've heard this, life isn't a destination, it's a journey, right? And on the way down, I saw some amazing things. I started, seeing like butterflies and stuff flying around, birds chasing each other. I started seeing deer. I actually saw a deer on the way down. Little flowers this big, that you never would have seen in your life, little yellow flowers and little oranges and purples and whatnot. And I started noticing for the first time the beauty of that mountain. And it was then that I didn't know I did, but it was then that I made the decision to begin enjoying the journey no matter what. And at that point, I started letting go of a lot of the old financial stuff from the old world. I started sabotaging myself. So would it be okay if I shared a little bit of my story? Would you guys like to hear who the heck I am and where I came from? So, and real briefly, because I don't think it's that important, but hey, you should probably know who the heck you're listening to. Whenever I listen to a new speaker or a trainer, I want to know where the information is coming from. So here I was 22 years old. I had just started a real estate business, and then I started a mortgage business and a financial coaching business. I had 3 companies going, probably about $4 or $5 million in real estate over in California, mostly, in some Arizona, all in the States. And I had maybe 20 agents or so, not huge operation, but a good size where I had enough people on payroll, and I was actually running a business, and a few of them, and it kind of shocked me. And by the time I hit 25, like Nigel said, I hit self-made millionaire. And it was a big goal of mine. I didn't realize it was a goal until I looked back, and I remember when I was 18, or 17 actually, I was 17, and I had my first bank account. I wrote my mom a check for $1 million. And I said, when I'm 25, you can cash this because I'm going to retire when I'm 25 and I'm going to be a millionaire. I completely forgot about the goal. It wasn't something I vision board and all that stuff. I just wrote it one day and forgot about it. And 8 years later, I looked at I was tallying the net worth, and I said, shit, this stuff actually works. So it was in that moment, though, get this, that wasn't my success. In that moment is when I started getting miserable. Because what I had done is I stopped creating and I started destroying. Because I had to maintain a business. And I hate maintaining businesses. I despise it. It's like maintaining a business is like eating Brussels sprouts. I don't like it, okay, at all. So I started slowly but surely saying, maybe I don't deserve this. Maybe this isn't what it's supposed to be. And I didn't sell properties when I should have. And long story short, within a year, I lost over $1.5 million. So I was literally $500,000 in the hole, declaring bankruptcy. On top of bankruptcy, I also had a $50,000 debt that I could not bankrupt because it was a personal friend. It was somebody I knew, and there's no way I would ever do that to them. Hey, big business, we'll see. But a personal friend, there's no way I would ever do that. So here I'm sitting there, just a short few years later, declaring bankruptcy, living in a house that's half on the way to foreclosure, and getting so broke, literally, that I'm eating the Easy Mac. Do you guys have Easy Mac here? Oh God. It comes like a 99 cents for a 6-pack of these crappy macaroni and cheese boxes. And it wasn't even mine, it was my old roommate's, who she left it there. And I always said her food's awful because I always eat organic food. And I'm sitting there eating her Easy Mac because that's all I could afford, living in this house, not making payments on it, and going, how am I ever going to pay back $50,000? That's so much money. And just a short time before, I was doing something different. Here's what happened, though. On that road, I started getting happier than I'd ever been before. And the reason is because I started actually living a passion. I started doing what I was meant to do. See, I always felt in my life that I wanted to make an impact. You guys ever felt like that before? Like you have something more to give? Like what you're doing right now maybe isn't it. Maybe there's something else that you want to give, something else that our life's meant to be about. And this whole talk isn't meant to be this massive inspirational, motivational speech. I'm just sharing my story. And I realized then that no matter what, I wasn't going to keep doing what I was doing. I wasn't going to settle for making a living. I was here actually when I made the decision not here, but in Queensland. I was up in the Gold Coast with some friends of mine, and Mark Rolton was there. That was a few years back. And one of my friends, Scott Harris. And if you've ever been around Tony Robbins' environment, you probably met Scott. Anyone know Scott in the room? Holy crap, one person, wow. So 2 people, okay. So Scott's an amazing, inspirational person. He's a triathlete and an amazing father and husband, and made about $500,000 a year, working 4 months a year in Fiji. Not a bad gig, right? So this is a guy that whatever he said, when he had advice for me, I listened. Okay, this is probably the first step to riches. When someone has what you want and they give you advice, you listen. So we're hiking up because everyone knew I wanted to rock climb. So we're hiking up this thing called Mount Warning. And Mount Warning was the highest peak in Queensland, or so I heard then. And so I'm expecting, like Peter, right? I'm putting my crampons on and get an ice axe, and I'm ready to go. Do we need to rope up? How many days is it going to be? What kind of tent should I bring? And they're like, oh, no, mate, I don't think you'll need that. I said, well, how long is the hike going to be? And they said, oh, it'll probably be like, 2 hours. Like, really? Oh, so it's just a bit of a walk. Okay. So we start up this mammoth hill. And eventually people started separating. There was people ahead of me and people behind me. And at one point, it was just me and Scott. And as I'm hiking up, we start talking about business and what I'm meant to do and what he thinks and all that kind of business. And I started telling him how I wanted to speak and I wanted to teach and I wanted to share and I wanted to do something different that I had not been doing before. And he looked at me and said, why aren't you doing it right now? Why aren't you doing it right now? And I said, oh, Scott, you don't understand. There's a lot of problems. I mean, besides all the problems, I don't want to tell you my story because I've heard that before. I said, besides all the story, I'm really good at what I'm doing because at that point, I'm running the mortgage business and the real estate business. I make a lot of money doing it. Just making several $100,000 a year and doing far better than anyone my age I knew of, especially in my circle, my area. And I'm helping people when I do it because one of my secret passions, I want to help people. So I told him all this and said, that's why I can't do my gift because I have all this stuff going for me. And I'll never forget as long as I live, he stops in his tracks. He's hiking up the mountain and he just stops. And he looks back at me and he says, mate, or mite, whatever it was, just because you're good at doing what you're doing, you make a lot of money doing it, and you're helping people when you do it, is no reason to do anything. So I said, what? Because think about this for a second. At this point, this is all I have, right? This is all I got. So he said, look, just because you're good at doing what you're doing, you make a lot of money doing it, and you're helping people when you do it, is no reason to do anything. And then he said the words that will change my life forever. If you're not doing what you were put on this earth to do, you're wasting your time. He said, you're wasting your life. Then he turned and walked off. And I stood there like, what? Okay, so defining moment in my life, right? Where have you come to a crossroads like that in your life? Or have you yet? I'm a young kid, and I'm absolutely blessed and so grateful that I had the chance to go broke to, how many people raise your hand if you've earned $1 million and lost $1 million in this room before? Anyone ever earned $1 million and lost over $1 million? Okay, cool. So I can have something to share with you. Usually I ask people in a group, I say, would you like to learn how to earn $1 million? Who would like to learn how to earn $1 million if it was easy and effortless? Really? Is that it? You guys actually don't want to? Okay, that's fine. One more time. How many people would love to earn $1 million? Would you learn the secret? Okay, good. Almost. Almost everybody. We're getting there. And then I'll ask the second question. How many people would love to learn how to go bankrupt? 2. Okay, we got 2 smart people. That's good. So here's the thing. If you learn how to get rich and you learn how to go broke, you can do the former and avoid the latter. If you don't learn how to go broke, you may do it accidentally. Hear me now. This is very important. What I've learned in the last few years, I'm doing the Aussie thing. See, we say learned, but it's learnt, isn't it? It's with a T, right? So what I've learned in the last few years is how to go broke before that. And now I've actually been regaining the fortune again. So to be able to do this in a systematic way means that in the future, I can avoid pitfalls. I can jump across the holes whenever they show up. Does that make sense? So you have to be able to learn how to do this. So I read a book called Think and Grow Rich. And be honest with me, don't lie. How many people have read Think and Grow Rich? Good. How many people have the book and haven't read it? Couple people. Good. Thank you for being honest. Thank you. I had the book for 7 years before I read it. It was given to me as a gift, and it actually had a $100 bill stapled to the back. It was for my first boss. And it was like, Matthew, good luck, and he thought it was a great book to have. So I put it on my bookshelf, and I was very proud of my Think and Grow Rich book. Loved having it. Shelves of self-improvement stuff. That's my shelf, and it still is. And I left that $100 bill there for 7 years because I'd never read through it, and I promised myself, I made the commitment that, of course, before I take the money, I will read the book. Then a curious thing happened. Finally, 7 years later, I pick up the book and I start flipping through it, and I thought, this stuff works. I looked through it and realized this is what I've been doing when I was making a lot of money. Napoleon Hill talks about a singleness of purpose. Jot that down. He talks about a singleness of purpose. Having one idea fixated in your mind. One goal fixated in your mind's eye. Singleness of purpose. And he talked about a commitment to follow through. Do you guys actually know the story of Napoleon Hill, of what happened to him? You guys heard this before? Napoleon Hill was, most people don't know, he was a reporter. He was also dead broke. In fact, he died broke. But he was one of the greatest teachers of our time. And the reason is because he had an opportunity to meet with someone that was great. He had an opportunity to meet with, at the time, Andrew Carnegie was one of the richest men in the world. So here's Napoleon Hill, a broke reporter, and he got invited to Andrew Carnegie's house, which imagine in those days, in the early 1900s, this is like getting a call or an email from Bill Gates saying, hey, I'd love to have you, I've read your article, I'd love to have you come out to my mansion and have dinner with me. Would you like to do that? And what do you say, yes or yes? Yes, right? Of course, Bill, I'm coming out. I'll be there tonight. So Andrew Carnegie invites him out, and no joke, true story, Napoleon had enough money to buy a train ticket to get back home. That's it. No other money besides that. So he takes the train out to see Andrew Carnegie. At dinner, Andrew Carnegie tells him this idea. He says, Napoleon, you got to get this. Look, I have an idea. I think that if you interview the richest people in the world, and I know most of them personally, if you interview the richest people in the world, we will find patterns of their success. Would you like to do that? Of course, right? I can get you in touch with the first 10, then you got to do it on your own. And I think that once you get this, once you interview those top people, you, Napoleon, you will learn the patterns of their success, and you'll be so good that you can teach these patterns to other people. And those other people will then be able to apply the patterns and get the same results. Does that make sense? So Napoleon said, well, great, when do I start? And he said, hang on, not so fast. See, Andrew Carnegie was a smart man. He knew that people will obstruct themselves. They'll do what? Obstruct themselves. So they'll be walking, ready to get their goal, and on their path to the goal, they'll run into an obstacle. Usually the two obstacles that people have is time and money. Andrew Carnegie was a smart man, so what he did for Napoleon is he took these and put them right in front of him. He didn't want somebody that was wishy-washy. He wanted somebody that was committed and ready to make it happen. So he said, by the way, this isn't a light task. This is going to take 20 years of your life. 20 years. You're going to go around and travel for 20 years and interview people. Actually, true story, it took him 25 years before he wrote the book. And he said, besides that, you have to pay your own way. I'm not going to pay you anything. I'm not paying you for this. You have to pay your own way as you do this. I said, shit, what am I going to do? So Andrew Carnegie was, of course, a brilliant man. He knew of something else. He knew that successful people do two things. They make lots of decisions, and they make them quickly. So successful people do two things. They do what? Lots of decisions, and they make them quickly. Okay, so if you're going to feed back with me here, I really, really need your interaction. Otherwise, I'm just talking to the wall. So successful people do two things. They make lots of decisions. Good, and they make them quickly. Right. So unbeknownst to Napoleon, he set a timer underneath the table. He set it for 1 minute. And he said, so, what's your answer? And he waited. 30 seconds later, Napoleon gave him his answer, and the rest is history. And we have one of the greatest self-improvement books of our time. And that, plus 3 other books, in my opinion, are the basis for every self-improvement book we have on the market today. They've all been redone of these 4 books. So what's interesting is, so I want to put a business frame around this for you. Would that be cool? A little business frame around what we're talking about. Because, bless you, in my opinion, you need to have the business stuff done first. So I love Peter to death. He's a dear friend. He's sharing all about living your passion, making a purpose, finding your mission, right? All totally true. And if you go there with no business frame, you won't know what to do when you get there, and most likely you'll fall on your ass. Can I say ass? You'll fall on your ass. So I'm going to put a little business frame around this to show you what it is I mean. So let's get something, I said who wants to make $1 million, and I guarantee you most people don't raise their hand because it's like, oh, another guy talking about making $1 million. Woo! I'm here to tell you that that just in the speaking career, I set up to make about $1.2 million a year. So roughly $100,000 a month. That's true numbers, and that's what I do. Now, you can do that, but if I told you, you can do that, I'll show you how, you wouldn't believe me because most people don't do that. How many make over $1 million a year right now? Just idea. Over $1 million a year? Okay, good. You don't have to raise your hand for this, but think to yourself, do you make under $100,000 or over $100,000? Are you a 5-figure income or a 6-figure income? You're like, Matt, I'm a 4-figure income. This is not good. The first year that I did public speaking, I was doing hypnosis trainings for someone else, and I was a 4-figure income. I made just under $10,000 in my entire year of training. Woo! But I've learned this. You can do 3 things with your time. You can waste it. Yay! You can play Xbox 360, whatever, and eat Cheetos on the couch and just kind of hang out. You can waste your time, absolutely. Is that true? Yeah. All right? You can smoke pot and eat Taco Bell or KFC or whatever. The second thing you can do is you can trade your time. Spend your time, trade your time. You may or may not want to jot this down. You can trade your time, which means you can trade it for $5 an hour, $10 an hour, $100 an hour, $5,000 an hour, right? Pete trades his time right now for $6,000 an hour. Is that true? He just told us. And we're all trading our time at different points. That's what most of us are doing right now in the room. Or you can invest your time. When you invest your time, something changes, something comes up different. When you invest your time, every person I know that makes over $1 million a year, and I know a few of them, everyone I know that makes 7 figures or more in a year have invested their time for a length of time. Is that true? You've heard Jamie's story. You've heard Mark Rolton's story. You've heard my story, Peter's story. Just about everyone on stage that's sharing and teaching something, they've taken the time to take the time with themselves. So I spent a year traveling and teaching workshops on hypnosis for 3 days each, all over the U.S., and I did about 2 to 3 courses a weekend, or 2 to 3 courses, sorry, not a weekend, but 2 to 3 courses a month, every 3 or 4 weekends a month, and every time I'd make $500 for the whole weekend, $700 for the weekend. Sometimes the weekends got canceled, so I went out somewhere and had a free vacation, just hung out and made no money. So at the end of the year, I had this tiny little tax form that said, wow, you made diddly squat. But what I learned in that time, oh my God, the different possibilities, the students, the experiences, I can never trade those for $1 million right now because that was what was monumental to create the career I'm doing now. So I want to start with something that's doable. Start with something that's doable for you guys. So think to yourself right now, do you make under or over $50,000 a year? Now, again, this is not about money, but if you don't have a business frame, if you don't have the business side sorted out, the pitfalls show up. So what I've learned in the last few years is you have to have the business side sorted. So I'm putting the business frame around this. So let's say you wanted to make, let's do a number like $100,000. $100,000. I'm using this number because it's doable. What's the word, please? Doable. It's doable, right? Could you see, wherever you are right now, raise your hand if you can see the possibility existing that you can make $100,000 in a year, whether you are or not. Could you see the possibility? I'm not saying you know for sure you're doing it. Good, that's everybody. You can see the possibility of creating that. Is that true? If I make $50,000 right now, I could say, well, I could see that there's a possibility of making twice that. If I make $25,000, I could see making 4 times that. True? So we're going to start with that as a business frame. So what's interesting is, what is being a speaker really all about? It's not about delivering words. It's about delivering states. And what's the best way to get someone into state? If I want my audience to get into a certain state, what's the best way to get in that state? Tell them, get in that state yourself. So did you notice, by the way, I'm going to be exhibiting all of the behaviors and all of the styles I'm talking about teaching. I'll be also using them, of course. See, I do eat my own cooking. So as I'm sharing with you the best way to present to people, I'm going to use these tools to present to you. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So it's nothing covert and secret. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. So did you notice when I'm telling that story about Christmas time? And I'm getting so curious. So if I want you guys to start feeling curious, I want to go there myself first. And that's what you just experienced. So I promise you I put a little business frame around this. So if you want to make, let's just say $100,000, okay, in a year. Why did I say that number? Again, because it's doable. How many people here, raise your hand if you've been to a real estate or investment or some kind of seminar that's been over 5 days long? Anyone been to a seminar like that over 5 days long? What'd you pay for it?
15 grand.
15 grand. What'd you pay for it? 5.5. Anyone else? 10 grand? 7? Anyone else? Over 5 days long. Anyone else? Is that it? I saw one more hand. Okay, good. So the lowest number we saw was 5.5. So just for fun, so we go under that. Let's just say $4,000. Okay. Now I'm not comparing. This isn't what my course costs. I'm just going to tell you, what if you had a course? What if you wanted to teach somebody something? And you had a week-long course. Do you think you could make $4,000 if you had something of high value? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes. Good. So I'm not asking if you believe it yet, because you will in a second. What I'm asking is, do you think it's possible? Would somebody pay $4,000 for a week-long course that had high value? Yes or yes? Right. We've just exhibited it. So how many people, if you want to make $100,000 a year, how many people would you need at $4,000 a course? 25. Good. My math whizzes. 25 people in a year. How many is that a month? 2 and a bit, right? 2 and a bit. So finding that bit of a person is going to be the tricky part. So you need 2 and a bit for every month to teach a course. Is that doable? Right? This isn't about having a mega speaking empire. This is about teaching a few people that would like to learn something of value. Now, do you think, how many people are 21st century members here? 21st century members? Okay, the whole room. So if you're a 21st century member, have you learned something of value since you've been a member? Yes or yes? Yes. Right. Do you think you could take something like that and teach it to someone else? Could you teach someone else? Sure. Here's the secret. We all have tons of value inside, heaps of value inside us. What we don't most often have is a conduit to get it out. We don't have a conduit that's congruent and streams high value. So I was watching TV in the hotel last night. I flipped the channels and saw The Dog Whisperer. You ever seen The Dog Whisperer? So I don't remember, Caesar something, I think. So fascinating guy. What's interesting is he's very intuitive, and I can tell he's trained in NLP and hypnosis highly, because how he's dealing with the owners is more important than how he deals with the dogs. And his biggest teaching, his biggest learning is energy. So he's talking about the energy that you project to your dog and the energy that you project as a person. So when he walks the dog, he stands there and he's congruent. He knows that he's the leader, he's the one in charge, right? And the dog stays there. Then he gives the leash to the owner, and the owner's like, oh no, stay here. And the dog's pulling and pulling back and all this weird stuff. And he keeps stopping them, interrupting their pattern and saying, look, you need to be congruent with your energy. So I went from trying to get people into a free weekend. I was like, please, it's free. It's all day Saturday. It's 1 day only. And I have all this value. I delivered tons of value in that 1 day. And I think my first seminar, I had like 4 people. So what does that mean? It means that people weren't seeing the value in it because I wasn't projecting it. So what presentation skills are really all about is how to take the value that you know inside and learn how to project it out so people understand and they feel that value. Does that make sense? We want people to feel the value. So at $4,000 with 25 people, 2 and a bit in a month, you would be able to earn easily $100,000. Now, if you already have your own course, I'll teach you exactly how to wrap it up and make it into a course that's worth that much easily. If you don't have it, by the way, also some of the learnings that we teach will actually teach you the information and show you how to have your own course. How I got started was I went through presentation skills very similar to this. And the skills that I learned originally from like NLP courses, I started teaching that. And it wasn't even my information. Does that make sense? It wasn't mine. I simply took the course. I said, okay, great. I got the copyrights for it. I paid for it. I spent some money on it, spent a lot of money on it. And with that copyrighted information that I paid for, I now went out and I taught that course. Does that make sense? And people are routinely paying for a week-long course like this $4,000, $5,000, $10,000. So that's what I intended to do for this. So to give you an idea, presentation skills we teach is an $11,000 course. And there's a tail end to this. I also do a course that's a 2-day in addition now because people keep asking for it. It's called Business and Leadership. Business and Leadership is a course that's all about learning how to actually take the skills, take the trainings, and apply it either one-on-one. So, for instance, I'll do a breakthrough session with somebody. I'll spend 4 to 8 hours with people and usually charge between $1,500 and $3,500 for that. So, would you like to spend 6 hours of your day and earn $2,500? That'd be useful? Okay, good. So some people are like, okay, I can spend a month doing that, or you can spend 6 hours. I do that just on a Saturday, or usually I do seminars on Saturday, so I'll do that like on a Tuesday afternoon or something. And people pay for that because of the congruence and because of the value. Does that make sense? So I'll teach you how to do that one-on-one, teach you how to do that in a training like this, like we're doing right now, or how to go out. The most lucrative one I know is to go out and do this with corporates. See, people oftentimes will devalue their own experience one-on-one because they think, oh, someone won't pay for me. They won't do that. That's silly. But if you go to find an in with a company like Telstra or Optus or something like that, these guys pay a lot of money. What do you have? You have a yellow book or yellow pages here? What's that called here? Yellow Pages, right? A friend of mine went to go do consulting for Yellow Pages. They paid, for 2 days' work, they paid $60,000. 60,000. $60,000 for 2 days of work. You know what he used? He taught exactly what I teach in the course. He used some of those skills, and he went in and changed the corporate culture a little bit. He went and did some values elicitations. He taught about meta programs, about personality types, and taught them who they should hire and who they should fire. Easy stuff that maybe he wanted to teach somebody and they would pay him $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 for it. He went to the company, in 2 days they paid him $60,000 and he had 3 people, him and 2 other people helping him. So it's easy to do that. Business and leadership's $3,500. Now here's what's cool about these prices is, I promise you I'll give you a special obviously at the end of this, and again I'm real upfront with that and very straightforward. What's great about prices like this is you want to know that this is a very lucrative career. What's the word, please? Lucrative, which means you make a lot of money, obviously, right? You've seen them prices. If you're members of 21st Century, you've seen other speakers. How many people have seen another speaker since you've been a member, right? Good, you've seen a lot of speakers probably. You know that everybody has products, they have seminars, they have courses, and all those courses are not $10, right? They're not $25, no. You know, my courses range from usually $5,000 to $25,000. And I'm not abnormal by any stretch. There's people that charge way more than that and people that charge a little bit less than that, but that's somewhere in the range. So think about this for a second. If you paid a tuition like this for an education, how many people would you need to train to make up the whole tuition? Right? 3, 4 people? 4 people, you're already in the black. So what other business could you do? You could buy a McDonald's franchise for, what is that now, $50,000 or no, $250,000, something like that? 1.5 million, sorry.
Last I heard.
Yeah, I'm off. 1.5 million to buy a McDonald's franchise because why? Because it's known to make money, right? This business is known to make money. All you need is the in. How many people are going to be here tomorrow? Raise your hand if you're going to be here tomorrow. If you didn't raise your hand, be here tomorrow. Tomorrow's sales and marketing, I'll also be one of the speakers, and I'm going to give a completely different slant on this and how I jumped into the industry and how you can do it very easily. So everybody go and grab a seat wherever you're sitting. Thanks for participating. See, here's the thing. This entire process is all the mental game. So in our Inner Mind Strategies course, it's a different course we do. It's more of an entry-level course. I'll be doing it in the Gold Coast in December. I don't have time to get into all that. This isn't about that. But that's a course where we do one-on-one work. You learn how to change yourself and how to change communication with one person. At the presentation skills, Secrets of Speaking, that's when we do it at a group level, like we're learning how to do right now. So at Inner Mind Strategies, we'll learn the mental game of how to get your own mind aligned and ready to do this. So there's something else that's really important. Now, you've heard Jamie talk about this, and I think Peter talked about this also. We talked about the formatting of a training, how to structure your content. Is that true? Right? I'm going to give you the easiest thing known to man. You guys ready for this? I mean, it's way too easy. Do you want to know how to structure your content so you don't need notes, you don't need crap? Anyone want that? Are you sure?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody say with me this. Format. Format. Good. How to format a training is for Matt. No, that's what it was called before I came around. So there's 4 parts to a training. People have made this more complicated, less complicated. When you can take any bit of information and you can structure it in this way and everybody will get it. Here's the reason why. How would you like to be able to entertain any part of the audience? Because did you know that people have different personalities? Go figure. How would you like to not lose anybody in the audience and keep everybody with you at any given time? How would you like that? Yeah. Good. So the secret for this is how you format your training. See, there's 4 different major learning styles. One of the learning styles, if you don't approach them first, they'll lose interest in you for the entire time. If I don't deal with these people first, I don't care what I say afterwards, and I could say, by the way, here's $10,000 and who wants it, because I'm just going to teach you how to take it from my hand. They're going to say, well, I don't know, this is stupid, and they'll turn away and leave. You have to address certain people in the right order. So you have to address all 4 learning styles and in the correct order and syntax. Would you like to know what that is? Okay, everybody say with me. Ready? Why, what, how, what if? Everybody say with me. Why, what, how, what if? Again, why, what, how, what if? One more time. Why, what, how, what if? Good. So jot that down. Why, what, how, what if? These are the 4 different learning styles. You're going to need this in a second, so this is the part you really take notes. Because if you don't take notes, then you're going to be lost in about 10 minutes. So why? Why is the motivation part? Why is a very fast part? Okay. I'll give you an example. Let's just say in Inner Mind Strategies, one of the courses, one of the segments we'll teach is anchoring. How many people by show of hands are familiar with anchoring? Good. So good majority of you. If you're not familiar with anchoring, I'm going to teach you in 5 minutes. Is that cool? Yeah. Good. So here's what would happen. If I wanted to teach you anchoring and I wanted to teach it, sometimes in Inner Mind Strategies, we take about half a day to teach it. So it's much more in depth. I could teach it in 4 days, in half a day, in an hour. I could teach it in 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. As long as I follow the format system, bless you, everybody is going to learn it easily and effortlessly. So here's what it would look like. So guys, how would you like to be in total control of your state at any given time? How would you love it if no matter what was going on around you, you could take your own internal state and you could shift it in a moment? Would that be useful? Yes. Good. So what if you were feeling like complete crud this day, and in a moment when you needed to, you could feel totally confident, amazing, and unstoppable? Would you like that? Yeah. Good. Or that's not every peak state. How would you like to, maybe you're going home with a partner or your lover, and do you really want to feel confident and unstoppable? No, maybe you want to feel loving, passionate, sensual, right? How would you like to be able to feel like that in a moment? Even if you had a stressful day at work, you could be in the now and feel exactly how you want to feel. Would that be useful? Good. So what section was that? What section do you suppose that was? That was the why, right? Why are you listening to me? So hopefully I got everybody's attention, and at this point, everybody should be shaking their heads. You want to look at your students and notice that their heads are shaking, right? That gives you indication you've given enough why. When you give enough why, they're like, okay, cool, I'm in. Give me the stuff. I want to know. That's why. And some people are like, yep, I know. Tell me what anchoring is. So I'd move on. I'd say, so what anchoring is it's a very simple stimulus response. It started off back in 1904 with Ivan Pavlov. You remember the guy Ivan Pavlov ringing the bell with his dogs? Remember that? Well, it wasn't actually a bell. He actually rang a tuning fork, and he had meat paste on a stick. And what he would do is he would ring a tuning fork with the meat paste, and he would continue to do these 2 stimulus at the same time, and the dogs would salivate. Eventually, he took the meat paste away, he rang the tuning fork by itself, and guess what? The dog salivated. What he learned from that was that when you associate a stimulus, an outside stimulus, during a peak emotional experience, a peak what? Emotional experience. During the peak, if you apply the same stimulus, a unique stimulus, what kind of stimulus? Unique. A unique, right? You apply these, the 2 will be linked neurologically. So the next time you fire off the stimulus, even if they're not feeling that emotional peak experience, they'll now feel it. Does that make sense? So it's the same thing that happens when you're driving down the road and you're listening to the radio and all of a sudden a song comes on that totally takes you back. Remember that? And you go back to a time you were falling in love or breaking up or something, and it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or you smell cookies or cologne and you totally get taken back to grandma or back to your dad or whoever it was. That's all anchoring. You're having a stimulus back when you were a kid with a high emotional state that got linked neurologically, and now 10, 20, 30, 50 years later, you fire off the stimulus, and if it was unique enough, and the emotional response was high enough, they'll be linked neurologically and it'll fire off that same state. So what section was that? What? The what, right? I'm telling you exactly what anchoring is. You understand what it is, where it came from, but do you know how to do it yet? No. Let me ask you a question. If I told you how to do it before I told you all that stuff, would some of you be lost? All right. Now, some people, the how people in the audience, they're like, I don't care, whoever, I don't care about that. Give me the juice. Tell me how to do it. But the majority of people, if I said, so here's our exercise, here's how you do this, they go, what are we talking about? I'm so confused. What is this all about? So if people start asking you questions during an exercise, and they're like, well, what is this? I don't really even get where this works. What is this? You haven't done enough what? Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. So the next section would be, so how you do anchoring is very, very simple. You want to find a unique stimulus. So I like doing something like maybe touching on the knuckle, touching on the shoulder, maybe giving a certain look or a certain word. It has to be unique because people will come to me and say, well, can I do a handshake? And I'd say, well, if we walked up and wanted to shake hands, can I do an anchor for a business person, every time I shake their hand, they'll feel great around me. Could I do that? Yes and no. The no is because it's not unique enough. It happens so often. How often do you shake hands in a day? All the time, right? So you want it to be unique, something that doesn't happen very often. So for instance, my mentor has a resource anchor on his earlobe. Every time he squeezes his earlobe, he brings back that state. He doesn't squeeze his earlobe that often. I have resource anchors on my fingertips. In Inner Mind Strategies, I'll teach you how to do this. We actually go through and I have 8 different resource anchors. So before I come up on stage, I fire off my fortitude, my total go get it. I fire off my joy and unbelievable laughter. I fire off gratitude, love, playfulness, all these things. So by the time I get on stage, it's like I'm bounding with all these emotions. So how you do it is you take someone back to a specific time when they were feeling that feeling of excitement, let's say. When they're at the peak of their experience, you create a unique stimulus. You do that a couple of times. They'll be linked neurologically. You change their state, you fire off the stimulus, and guess what? The excitement comes back in them. You can see the change in their body. Does that make sense? Good. So that's a 2-minute example of a how. So what was that? How? Good. You're listening. I'm giving you the answers at this point. So the last section is our what if people. These are the people, this is your question and answer, and this is the section where people will say, well, hang on a second, what if this happened? What if they open their eyes, but they are supposed to have their eyes closed? Could this work in this scenario? Could I do this with 2 people at once? What if I was working with a purple kangaroo on Mars? Would it work then? And you get these funny questions in class, and you usually get questions that will never happen in real life. So that's all your what if people. If you give enough why, you give enough what, and you give enough how, and then you cut off the training and you say, okay, well, thank you very much. A quarter of the room, literally a quarter of the room will sit there and be like, oh, this sucked. I don't even know, I can't use this now. I don't know where to go. All you need to do, the secret, is to take, it's so easy. You take 1 to 2 minutes and you just ask this question. So how was that? Where can you use this in the future? Who has questions? And you have a couple people give some feedback questions, and you'll notice that certain students, certain participants, will always have some questions. Have you guys ever been in a seminar and you notice that the same few people keep on asking the questions after every exercise? Ever notice that? It's okay. It's fine to do that. The reason is because those are the what-if students. Make sense? The how students are always asking questions on specifically how the exercise works to make sure that we're doing it properly. The what students always want more history. They want more context. The why students are the people in the very beginning. They're always saying, well, hang on a second. Why are you even telling me this in the first place? So everybody got what that is? Good. Here's what we're going to do. You all know something. Raise your hand if you don't know something. I don't know nothing. Now, everybody knows something really well. Is that true? So I know presenting, and I know the mind-body connection. I know this stuff very well. In fact, there's a lot of other things that have nothing to do with this stuff that I know really well. The first time I did this type of exercise, I thought for a second, I said, well, you know what? I know how to open coconuts. How many people know how to open a coconut? 3 people in the room, right? 4 people in the room. So it's a valuable skill. It truly is. Now, if you're laughing, it's because you're like, well, why would I want to open a coconut? You're a why person. So when I first did this exercise, what the trainer said is you have 3 minutes, and you're going to write down, you're going to create a 3-minute training. You're going to create a 3-minute talk about something that you know. It might be about how to be a fashion consultant. It might be how to open a coconut. It might be how to make a stir-fry dish. It might be how to build a porch if you're a carpenter. I don't know what it is, what your thing is, but whatever that thing that you know really well, that's what he said would be the 3-minute exercise. So he said take 3 minutes and write down exactly what your training is, and I want you to format it in why, what, how, what if. I just gave you an example of that, like I did for anchoring. How would you like to? Why? What this is this. How we do it is these are the steps, right? This is where the steps and the exercises go in. The what if will be any questions. Take questions from your audience. When I first went through my first trainer's training, in those days it was a 16-day training. 16 days in a row is absolutely crazy, and with full evaluations. And we did almost nothing but exercises. It was things like this. So imagine what this was like for this last hour, and do that over 16 days. And at first, sure, it's uncomfortable, but after a while, you start to welcome it. Because the instructor would come up and say, okay, here's a new thing, right? This is a way to talk, or a way to hold your body, or a way to make a gesture, whatever it was. And then he'd say, 6-person exercise, ready, go. It's like, shit, again? So you get up in front of 5 or 6 people, and you begin to do this exercise, trying to incorporate in this new technology. At the end of the exercise, you would get intense feedback from the instructor. So he'd say, well, I liked how you did this, and here are all the things to improve. Tell me how you're going to do better next time. And you're like, shit. So what happens, though, eventually you start to work that muscle, and you start to actually understand what it is that you should change and improve. You don't need a video camera at that point. Most speaker boot camps that I know of, they consist of this. They take 1 day or 4 days, one of the two, or somewhere in between, which to me isn't enough time to train your unconscious. What happens in those moments is it's a great experience. You learn a lot, but usually what they do is they'll film you with a camera like we have in the back. They'll film you on your first day, show you how much you suck, then teach you all these skills, right? And then by the end, they've now taken away, you've changed the way you're doing your hands or whatever it is that's happening. They've changed something. And then you have your final filming, and you see how much you've changed. And you're like, yeah, I'm a speaker. And then you take that and they make it into a DVD for you, so you can now give it to people and say, look at me, I'm a speaker. Here's my 5-minute DVD. I should speak on your stage. Well, as you'll find out from tomorrow's sales and marketing, that's not how you get on stage, is by promoting to people you don't know and giving them DVDs. That's not the secret. So imagine for a second, Owen, if after every exercise you had intense feedback from a professional who knows what they're doing, knows what to look for, and knows how to give you feedback. Did you guys know there's a specific science behind feedback? If you give feedback inappropriately, the unconscious mind does not take it in. If you give feedback that lasts too short, too long, at the wrong time, in the wrong spatial place, right? You have to actually stay where you were when you did the action. So that's why with a puppy, if they pee somewhere and then they're off playing over here, and you say, this is very bad, and you hit them or whatever it is you do, then they don't get the lesson. But in the moment, when you give them feedback in the actual action, they take it and they learn it unconsciously. So the entire presentation skills course is all about feedback. Feedback is the thing that makes it work. Feedback is the thing that makes us better. Who wants to be better? Better question, who wants to be the best? Who wants to be the best? I don't mean the best because everyone else is going to suck. I mean the best person that you can be, the best you. So who wants to be the best? Yes. Good. Where are my presenters? Yeah. That was so weak, you guys. Where are my presenters? Yeah. Right here. That's what I want to hear. Good. So, thank you for sharing. Who else has a question? Comment? Sean?
I found the why is pretty generic.
Yes.
With most people, you don't want to feel rich, happy, so happy, mad, glad, sad, whatever. That's pretty generic.
Sure.
Didn't really know what to do with the Q&A. Like, is there any way to preempt the Q&A, like in terms of...
Yep.
Most people ask these questions, so I'm going to say them now.
There's a few ways to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The question's pretty straightforward. So what he asked was, how do you preempt that? Sometimes you just say, are there any questions? Usually what I'll do after an exercise, I'll come back and I'll say, so, how was that? What did you learn? What did you experience? People say, oh, that was cool, that was nice. And sometimes if there's a specific feedback that always needs to be given, that I get a question quite often, I'll say, okay, if there's no questions, I'll answer the one question that hasn't yet been asked. You want to jot that down. I'll answer the one question that hasn't yet been asked. And I'll say, here's the question I usually get, and then give them an answer. Awesome feedback in that place. It goes in the what if section. And what if is also for what we call future pacing. What's the word, please? Future pacing. Future pacing is when you say, how will you use this in the future? Where can you use this? So guys, taking a format system like you just learned, where can you use this in the future? Where could you use this? What context could you use this in? Right? With whom could you use this format with? Could you use this in sales? Yes or no? Yes. Yes or no? Yes. Good. Could you use this in relationships? Yes or no? Yes. So how would you love to be completely happy every day of your life? How would you love to have unbelievable sensuality and passion and playfulness and security? Good. What I'm going to talk about is marriage. You can do anything in the format systems. Does that make sense? Yeah. Good. And it's the way to effectively communicate. So go ahead and grab a seat. Go ahead and grab a seat. Again, one of the other things that we talk about in the Inner Mind Strategies course, which is our one-on-one course, that's the one where you're doing just one-on-one work, is how to effectively communicate and manage your state. It's an entire 8-day immersion course, and what we do is anyone, when you're coming to presentation skills, I'll actually give you this for free, the Homestudy, which costs $4.95. So that's the entire CD set and the manual that's recorded live from a 4-day immersion. And this isn't just 4 days that are, hunky-dory days like today was. This is going from like 9 a.m. to midnight usually and beyond. So a few people have been in there with me before. It goes for a while. By the way, just curious, how many people have been in a course, a training, or heard me speak before? Anyone ever been in one of my courses? All right, a little more noise than that. Who's ever been with one of my courses?
Yes.
Yes, good. So you know that even on a weekend, we take it a little more mellow, a little lighter key, right? And in the immersion courses, we get intense. So the presentation skills, this isn't 7 days of like la la fairyland. This is 7 days and nights, total intensity, total immersion. So you get so baffled. Literally, we overload systematically your conscious mind so you don't care what you're doing on a stage by day 3. At this point, we begin to layer in the behaviors unconsciously. What's the word, please? We layer in the behaviors, okay? And literally by the 4th or 5th day, what will happen is we've layered in so many behaviors that people start feeling frustrated and they go, oh, I didn't get that last behavior. I know I didn't do it. But guess what? The last 20 behaviors that they were supposed to have learned, they just did automatically and they didn't even think about it. And I point that out and I say, by the way, did you notice that you did this and this and this and this and this? And you did all these things that we've been teaching you and you didn't even realize it. And they go, oh my God. And it all resides in the realm of the unconscious mind. Powerful stuff. So a few of the other things I want to share, we don't have time to go over that. I said I want to give you as much as humanly possible in an hour and a half, and I'm almost out of time, so I don't want we can't do any more exercises. What I want to share is just actually teaching your conscious mind a few things. So a couple of them. Who's familiar with rapport? Rapport? You know how you can get a rapport with somebody else, right? Did anyone feel at any given time today during this last hour and a half together that we were in rapport? That I was talking with you? That we had some rapport? Anyone feel that? Good. There's a science behind that. Now, at the beginning courses, we teach you how to have rapport with one person. But how do you do it with a group? Well, there's ways to do that. You need to find a rapport leader. Okay, you need to, there's so many skills and techniques to begin actually building rapport with an entire group of people. And you can build rapport with 2 people or 20,000 people. It's just that easy. One of the other things we'll do is we talk about how we use our body, gestures. Have you ever had this? Have you ever seen a speaker or presenter talk and they were just, you couldn't even hear them because of their gestures? They were just talking about, that thing they wanted to share with you and how when you learn this technique that you're going to get everything just exactly the way you need it. Does that make sense? Right? And they're talking with their hands so much that you can't hear a thing they're saying. It kills me. If you're a visual person, I'm like, dude, get out of my pictures. The guy's messing up my pictures and I can't see what he's talking about. So the first thing we do is we literally take away your gestures. So as you begin presenting, imagine doing that last 3-minute presentation you did, but you can't move, you can't use gestures at all. So people do this. Nope, cut it out. So, and once you take your gestures away, what we have to do is we literally need to completely strip off everything. Not your clothes, your behaviors. We need to strip off all the old behaviors that aren't serving you, that you're doing not purposefully. Some people pace the stage all the time, and they don't quite know why they're doing it, but they just talk, and they're doing this thing. Have you seen those guys before? It's like, oh, and I saw a presenter once come off stage, so then I had to come down and talk to people, and I got all frantic, right? And I come back up on stage, whee! It's not purposeful. We'll teach you exactly where to stand on stage. For instance, one of my colleagues who trained with the same people I trained with originally, he got called by a political leader once. And it was a senator over in Arizona, and he said, "Hey, I heard that you know how to train people, so they stand in a particular area in the stage to convey a specific message. That there's an area in the stage where you can stand, and that's the past, and then you can stand in the present, and then there's a place in the stage where you can stand in the future. Can you teach me how to do that?" And he said, "Well, sure, of course I can." And he said, "What's your daily rate?" And at the time, it was he charges much more now, but it was like didn't have a daily rate, so $2,000. He said, "Done, get out here." He flew him back and forth for quite some time, getting him ready for his political campaign. And what happens when he watched the videos of this person talking, he would literally stand over and he would start talking about how things used to be, right? He actually stands somewhere that represented for him the past, and then he would talk about him and how he's going to do things different. And then he would walk over and talk about what's going to happen in the future, and then he would talk about his opponent. And he would talk about his opponent and how much he sucked and how they shouldn't vote for him. And then he walked back over here and talk about himself again. And literally he was anchoring himself to the past and anchoring his opponent to the future. You guys follow that? Yes. When you know how this stuff works, it's critical. If you've seen Tony Robbins on stage, what we actually do is we set up stage anchors. Just like you can anchor something to yourself, you can also anchor a state to your audience. Do you think it would be useful to be able to anchor certain spots on stage so much so that every time you stand in that place, you elicit a certain feeling out of your audience? Think that would be useful? Because remember, we're not dealing with words, we're dealing with states. Interesting stuff. So what's funny is on stage, everything becomes an anchor. We want to teach you how to do that with purpose, with volition. Okay? We know one of the speakers, I think it was, who was that? Was it Jamie or Peter? They were talking about, what percentages are words, right? And we know 7% is our words. So that leaves 93% of our communication is not our words. So 38% is our tonality, it's how we say it, but 55%, what number? 55, I can't hear you. What number? 55% is our physiology, the kinesthetics. It's how we move our body, where we stand or don't stand, where we walk or don't walk, right? Sometimes we sit down on a stool. Now, some trainers sit in a stool because they're tired. I never do that. A trainer that knows how to speak and how to present will sit in a stool when it's necessary, and he'll stand when it's necessary. Does that make sense? He will walk when it's necessary and not walk when it isn't. They'll move in different places on the stage. I'll teach you how to have a bad news anchor, okay? So there's a certain place on stage I go whenever I have to give you bad news. And I make sure that it's a secret special place, like maybe behind my chair. So I'll come and say, look, guys, it's been a long day. We're going to go a few minutes over, so I hope that's okay with everyone. But I just got to let you know that I have a lot more value to give you, and we're going to go about 10 minutes over. Is that cool with everyone? Great. So I might deliver, and by the way, that's true. So, so I might deliver that bad news, quote unquote, from a place that I'm not going to step into accidentally. So later I'm saying, by the way, my course is amazing, and meanwhile you're getting the feeling of now I have to go over and I'm going to be late to dinner. We don't want that. You don't want to mix feelings. Very, very key. Does that make sense? One of the other most important things we'll do is the VAK sequencing. Jot this down. VAK sequencing. VAK is visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Again, I don't have time to get into depth, but I want to share this so you can start using it. So visual people. And has anyone heard before if you're visual or maybe you're auditory or if you're a kinesthetic person? Raise your hand if you think you're visual. Primarily visual. Good. Raise your hand if you're primarily auditory. Think you're primarily auditory? A couple people? Good. Primarily kinesthetic? You're a feeler? Good. Those three people respond to a different type of talk. My visual people, they want fast. They want pictures. They want me to design stuff. They want me to just get to the point and show them exactly what to do. My auditory people love to hear different pitches and different tones. They want to hear like a radio announcer, right? So it's like, I just want to like really, really high and then maybe really, really low and tell them, and maybe I'll imitate somebody's voice, like a Tony Robbins or something like that. And they want to hear these different fluctuations, right? Fluctuation is the key to auditory people, as well as a middle speed. Our kinesthetics, you guys, the feelers of the audience. When you talk to your kinesthetics, you really want to make sure that they really get a grasp for what you want to get across. And you might be a little softer spoken. My kinesthetics in the audience just got warm. I saw them flush and actually change color. Literally. Yes, I see her change color and go, ooh, that's hitting me just where I want it. No, in the heart, people. So you can feel the difference, can you not? There's also different types of words we use with kinesthetic, with auditory, with visual. So here's the secret. We spend an entire half a day teaching you all the predicates, how to use different types of words with different types of people. And did you know there's a sequence that the best presenters in the world use that if you don't follow the sequence, you'll lose people right off the bat, just like format. See, most presenters get it all wrong. They leave stage, and they get introduced, and they say, come on up, and they go, yeah! All right, how you guys doing? What's going on? And they want to jump into your face. Now, our kinesthetic people cringe, right? See that? He goes, oh, I don't like this person at all. They're offending me. And what will happen is you shut off your kinesthetics instantly. So I'll teach you the sequencing on exactly which order to go into and how to do that. Because when I'm talking one-on-one, inner mind strategies, I teach you how to talk with a visual person and really, really get across your point and communicate with them. How to talk with an auditory person and get your point across with them and really, really communicate. With a kinesthetic, same thing. But how do you do it in a mixed group, right? Well, there's a secret. There's a formula to that. So these are some of the behaviors that you have to learn if you're going to be an effective communicator. So we talked about that business frame. Remember the business frame? And how you can create this. So how many people think that $100,000 is doable? How many people think it's actually doable? Raise your hand. Keep your hand up high. Be proud. $100,000 is doable. Thank God. What that means to you is 6 figures is doable. Now, a lot of you will go home to your friends and they're making $20,000 a year. 30,000, 10,000, unemployed, whatever. And they're going to say, are you crazy? You can't possibly do that. So I could, again, share with you the dream of 1 million, of 10 million, of whatever it is, which you can totally do. But what I want to do is I want achievable results, and I want them today, okay? So my presentation skills, unfortunately, isn't until February. It's February 16th. Maybe I'll jot it down. It's February 16th to the 22nd, okay? And do we have the forms in the back? Yeah. Go ahead and pass out the forms just so everybody has it and they can take a look at what's going on. February 16th to the 22nd. It's going to be in the Gold Coast, right here in Australia. I do 2 of these a year. One's in the United States and one's in Australia. And when I'm in Australia, if I'm going to do an intense training, I love the Gold Coast. It's my favorite spot. So that's where I plan on doing it. I'll come down here for weekends. I love Melbourne, but the intense trainings are always going to be the Gold Coast. So it's a quick, short, it's an hour flight, and it's a nice spot. And how's February in the Gold Coast, by the way? Is it nice? Beach weather? That's good. So that's what we're going to do. So now I just passed out some forms. You can take a look. February 16th to the 22nd. And how many people, by the way, just would be interested in something like this? Would you be interested in something like this? Get an idea? Good. Might make sense for you. This might be something that you can create with. So my plan for you is to make this doable, okay? I want to make this doable. Now, the moment that we're actually in the middle of editing the first home study course right now for the inner mind strategies, the moment that editing finishes, I'm going to give you a copy of this. So this is included. I'm going to give you a copy of the Inner Mind Strategies home study course so you can start studying the skills and techniques right away. You'll learn the things like rapport, anchoring, communication, VAK, all those things you're going to learn just from the home study course, okay? I promise you I give you a special. So what I'm thinking, let's see. I mean, for those of you who are coming, you want something good, right? Something good? Yeah. That be good? Okay, good. I want to make sure it's good. So let's see. For this, what we're going to do is 6497. Now what this will allow you to do, 6497, there's payment plans available and everything. What it will allow you to do is take those skills, even from the home study, and you can literally, the next day, create a training and go out and use it. You don't even need to have an idea. See, so many of these are all about flushing your own ideas out. Well, I took 2 years of my life trying to flush my own ideas out, and it took some time. 2 years later, I finally have an entire seminar series which I teach and share, and I do quite well doing it. But it took some time to do that. So rather than doing the mistake, which is most people take all the time in the world to create their products, and they take 1.5 years to write their book. I have my book here, so it's the first book I wrote, Total Freedom from Addictions. I'm in the middle of writing 3 more right now. And developing products is something I believe you should do down the road. The first thing to do is get out there and start doing something. Get out there and start actually making money, okay? My goal for you is to earn your tuition back on your first training, and I believe you can do that. When I went out and I took my trainer's training originally, and it was through an NLP trainer, when I went out and took that, within a month, literally within 30 days, I came out and I spoke for the first time to an audience of 400 people, and it was my first seminar I did. I sold 4 seminars. Woo! And I was charging $5,500 just under that form. So you do the math, carry the one. In an hour, I made $22,000. Now, do you think that paid for my training? Yes or yes? Yes. Good. I can't hear you. Is it yes or yes? Yes. Okay, good. I'll make sure you know the answer. So it easily paid for the training. If you're not going to do anything with this, please don't sign up. No matter what you do, do not sign up with my course if you don't plan on doing anything with this. If you just want to learn how to speak better, it's fun, it's all cool and everything. And if you have the extra cash, hey, why not do it? But the people I want in the course are people that are actually going to go out and do things with it, that I can use as a testimonial a month later. The testimonial I wrote for my instructor has made him hundreds of thousands of dollars because I said, hey, I went out within 30 days of my training and I earned over $20,000 in an hour. And then I've consistently done that and more, and now I'm making $50,000 in a day or in an hour. Not every day, not every hour, but enough to make it notable, okay? And it's all because of the little bit that I invested in myself, the money I invested in myself and the time I invested in myself. So I'm gonna do one more thing for you. Business and Leadership is a 2-day course, which is the thing, it's the fuel for the fire. This is the part that's going to create the business for you. You can begin using it again immediately. The day you leave the course, you'll begin to charge somebody money. Would that be good? Yes. So again, I don't think money is the end-all be-all. I don't think that's what it's about. But I'll tell you what, I've been broke, I've been $500,000 in debt and bankrupt, and I've been a millionaire. I choose the high one. I like having money over not having money. People that have a lot of money, it's easy for them to say, oh, well, I have money, so that's not what it's about. I just want to love and give and do charity. Well, it's easy to love and give and do charity when you have a lot of money. So that's, for me, I really, really push the business side of things because you have to get that across. Once you understand that, it's good. So what I'm doing for you, and this is the first time I'm going to do this, probably last time, I'm going to give you the business and leadership course. That's totally included, business and leadership. And for 21st Century members, not for everybody else, I'm also limiting the course. So the one in February, I'm limiting to 18 people. So it'll be about the size, a little smaller than this room. So some of these courses, you go to it and it's like 100, 200, 500 people, right? So this one I'm limiting to 18 people, and we're going to have 3 trainers there. 18 people with 3 trainers plus assistants. So what that means is every group of 6 or 5 are going to have their own trainer, so you actually get your feedback one-on-one every single time throughout the entire 7 days. Business and leadership, we're going to add on, ready? Jot this down on your flyer. You're going to add on a 3rd day. It goes from the 24th to the 25th. We're going to add on a 3rd day on the 26th of February. We're going to add on a 3rd day, which is all about the power of JV, viral marketing, everything that I've learned to actually get products and get myself out there to create money today. And again, it's not about how to develop things down the road. It's how to pick up the phone and book yourself into something. Who would like to be able to pick up the phone and book themselves into something today? Would that be useful? Good. Well, the people that feel like they actually have the skills. Come February 22nd, you will have the skills and you will feel confident and you'll say, yes, book me into something now. That's what it's about. So that's a little bit about this. So we're going to add a 3rd day, and the whole thing is only for $64.97. That's a today-only price. You have to talk to 21st Century about it if there's anything else. I have 2 more gifts for you. I have some extra flyers in the back here. I have 2 weekend events coming up, which I charge $12.95 for the first one, which is good. Did they already pass those out to you? Yeah. Oh, good. So learn hypnotic success training is $9.95, and anyone here in the room, whether you come with me or not, because I still want to teach, I want to share, and I want to give you value, and I only had an hour and a half today, you can come to this event for free. What this event is a 3-day course, and it's all about teaching you and learning how to do hypnosis. So if you've never heard of hypnosis, you don't know what it really is, it's not scary, it's pretty simple stuff. I can't get into it today, but come to the course, it'll be so worth it. Jot down these dates. The next one is going to be December 5th to the 7th in the Gold Coast. 5th to the 7th in the Gold Coast of December. And March 6th through the 8th right here in Melbourne. It may or may not be in this room, but it'll be somewhere close to here. March 6th through the 8th in Melbourne. That's hypnotic success training. $9.95 is the tickets. I do that for the same price in Australia or in the US, and many people pay for the price. You'll see people in there that pay. They found me on the internet or whatnot. 21st Century people can come for free. The next one is Double Your Dollars. This is a weekend course also. Double Your Dollars is a $1,295 course. What I do in many other stages, 21st Century, I worked out something different with Jamie. I offer this quite often, so I offer this as a free course also. Most stages, what I do is I don't even talk about the other things. I simply get up and I talk about Double Your Dollars for an hour and a half, and then I say it's $12.95, and I might offer them a special price for that, of $9.99 or $500 or whatever it is, and I give them a price of Double Your Dollars, and then they come to the weekend. So for you guys, I just want you to come and want you to learn some more unconscious mind skills. Would that be cool? Good. So I hope that's high enough value for you that I'm giving an awesome special, well over half off of everything for presentation, and you can come to either one of the weekends, or you can come to both. Not only that, there's more. No, in reality, I'm going to give you not just 1 ticket, but 2. So if you want to come with a spouse, a partner, a friend, someone back home, and experience what this is, you can have an entire weekend with me. And the weekends are usually about this size. I don't get into 500 people weekends. I like to keep them intimate. So we're 20, 30, 40 people. And it's a place. How many people, again, have been through a weekend with me before? You've been in one of my weekends? Good amount of people. So if you've been through it on the weekends, if you haven't been, talk to one of these guys and they'll tell you how good it is. Come. Those are the 2 days. And you'll see here on your form, on one side, it tells you all the presentation skills and business and leadership, exactly what's going to happen, what to expect. And on the other side, it says that today's special event price, $64.97. There's also a payment plan, and the payment plan is, you can write in $1,600, 5 payments of $1,600. So if you want to do that, you can also come on a payment plan. For me, I allow you to come to the seminar whenever it comes due. So some trainers will say, once you've paid your payment plan, it's totally paid in full, 30 days before, you can come. I don't live in scarcity, I live in abundance. So as long as you're on a payment plan, you can come. If you can't afford $1,600 a month, see me, come see me. If you want to get to this training, get to it. We'll work out a payment plan. I don't care. This isn't about the money. It's about making this happen and actually getting the people in there that want to be in there. Is that cool? Is that fair?
Yes.
Good. So, with that, I got to say, guys, it's time to wake up. It's like we've been hanging out here for how long? Like an hour and a half? Does it feel like an hour and a half to you? That's good, because it was an hour and 35 minutes. A little bit longer. And I got to say, I remember when I was climbing back down that mountain, I came all the way down, all the way back, and I made it back to my car. And as I came back to the car and I started the engine, I remember thinking to myself, wow, this was such a valuable experience. I'm so glad I took that journey up there. And I'm so glad I took the journey back. And I'm so glad that I enjoyed it and I didn't have to get to my destination to feel good. And you know what? Ever since then, I've always felt good whether I made the destination or not. Every time, I always felt that way. So, that Christmas morning, you remember getting that present? I remember opening up that gift, getting those Legos that I was so excited about. And I had the blue ones, my brother had the gray and brown ones. And I remember just thinking, wow, it was 6 a.m. Christmas morning and I just couldn't wait to get in there. So I hope that if I've only given you one gift today, it's the gift of intense curiosity. To always be curious with your clients, with your students, and with yourselves about what's possible in the future. That's what Tony Robbins taught me ages ago. And of all the money I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars literally on my own self, on self-improvement and education. And I have to say that was money well spent, money well invested. And when he gave me those little pieces of advice, I realized that those little pieces, those little tidbits are the things that are the most valuable. Sometimes it's the tiniest things that make all the difference in the world, isn't it? Good. So with that, guys, I'd just like to say 3 things. I thank you so much. I respect you, and I appreciate you. God bless you. Have a great night. Thank you. Give yourselves a hand.